everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Lennox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Lennox. Here again to remind you that this can be the best season of your life. We all know that it's a mindset thing. It's what as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. As a woman thinks in her heart, so is she. So again, regardless of what stage you are at in life, this really, it all depends on how you see it. This really can be the best season of your life. We all go through life in situation, things happens to us, and so we have to deal with it. Now, this show encourages you to go through a journey of self-discovery. And with that, I mean, as when we're born, we grow, and by the age of 5 years old, you're getting a lot of information, a lot of teaching, a lot of indoctrination that really starts to shape and form your years. It shapes you into the person that you are today. And unless you go back and really discover your true self and your true identity, it brings you into a place of authenticity. And that is what I desire for you. I know what it's done for me, and I encourage you to do the same, because what happens is that by the time we are adults, we are so shaped into, a belief system. We are shaped by cultural standards, by societal norms. We are just shaped, based on external influences, and we become people that we really are not. That happened to George. George was raised in a home with professional parents and so forth, and it was expected that he go to college. So he went to MIT and got himself a degree in engineering. He was very creative and, just very smart guy. And after a while, he said, "You know what? I am done. I don't want to do this anymore," because, he plays the guitar, he plays the keyboard and so forth. He says, "I want music. I want to spend my life creating music and bringing music to people." And so he resigned from his job. He left that whole career, and now he's like a musician. Of course, that didn't bode well in his family setting, because after paying so much money for college, and then he just switched out on them, and but he's happy. He's doing exactly what he wants to do, and he's getting pleasure out of it. Talk about pleasure. When I talk about pleasure, um, I say, or my philosophy about life, the purpose of life is pleasure. That's how I define it. The purpose of my life is pleasure. And some people, I learned this week that some people take offense to it. Not offense, but they when I say that, because I don't really get into any kind of explanation, or I don't try to qualify what I mean. I say you can define that however, whatever works for you. Now, unless somebody asks me, now, what do you mean by that? Then I will explain. But I always say the purpose of life is pleasure. And I realized that I was in a silent, I was in a podcast, and silent contributor, um, writing and whatever, and I wrote something and someone disagreed with me, and they went and they look at my bio, and it talks about, the purpose of life is pleasure, and they said, "No, I can understand why you're that way." So in their minds, I'm assuming that they thought it was something lewd, salacious, immoral, or whatever. But if you think of it, the opposite of pleasure is what? Pain and suffering. And as I keep that image in my mind of pleasure and health and good relationship and goodwill with everyone and so forth, those are the things that I attract. So the pleasure, the purpose of my life is pleasure. Now, if that doesn't work for you, you can come up with your own, because that's the whole thing. When you go through this journey of self discovery, you will uh, you will come up with your own what works for you, but it has to work for you, because what you will come up with is your truth, and it's your truth that sets you free. When I talk about pleasure, we had a situation this weekend. And if I didn't think that way, and know that, my husband and I, we're always saying that life just works for us, and life always brings us goodwill and good relationships and things of that nature. We call ourselves a strong team. We consider ourselves a strong team. So it was funny because this weekend, it was a Sunday afternoon. We had a nice meal, and my husband said, "How about ice cream at Andy's?" There are two things that we so enjoy. When we go out at night or when we go out to dinner, we enjoy toasting to a glass of wine. We like that. And on another hand, we like ice cream. We just like going to an ice cream parlor and enjoying ice cream. And so Sunday he said, "Let's go to," and I said, "Let's do it. I'm always game." And so we get in. I said, "Let's go in my car. I'll drive." He's like, "Fine." So he's in the passenger side, and I'm over here. Now, I drive an SUV, and it's a high performance SUV. So when your foot is on the metal, you don't know how fast you're going, because and I have come to drive a certain way that feels normal to me, and I just I drive fast. So I'm bearing down Beltline Road, and then my husband looked over and right, and he said there's a police car over there, and I see it. So I kept driving. Of course, by then I had slowed down a little bit, put my foot on the brake, and then I look in the rearview mirror and I see red and blue. I'm like, oh gosh, and so I start bearing left. My husband's like, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, the cop is he's coming behind me." So I turn into a street and turn into a parking lot. And again, my husband and I, we are a strong team. And we were not afraid or anything. So the officer, he stops his car, and I guess, it took a little minute or so. And, uh, in my mind, I knew that I was going fast. So he said, he approaches the car, and he said, and I'm like, "Hello, officer," just upbeat. And he said, "Hi." He said, "I stopped you because you were speeding." He said, "This is a 40-mile-per-hour road, and you were going 50." And I says, "Ouch." I said, "I thought I was going like 42. I don't know where that came from, but that's what I said." He said, "No, you were going 50 miles an hour." And he said, "Where are you headed?" My husband chimed in, and he said, "Officer, we just got through supper, and I invited my wife out to have ice cream. She offered to drive, and that's why she's driving. Generally, it would be me, and so forth." And he said, "We're going to Andy's." And he said, "Oh, Andy's, that's my favorite place for ice cream." And I said, and then the officer asked, he asked, he says, "What are you going to have?" And my husband said, "There's a new flavor, new blend, which is a peach. It's a peach blend, peach cream, and so forth. And I'm going to try that." And I'm like, "Well, I probably do plain vanilla and so forth." He said, this is the officer again, "Whenever I make a DUI stop, I usually reward myself by going to Andy's and having a big one, because yeah, I guess what he was saying is that, when you make a DUI stop, you're like saving lives, because if somebody is driving under the influence, they could kill other people." So he said, "Whenever I make a DUI stop, I reward myself by going to Andy's and having a big one." And I said, "Well, you will not be able to go today, because I'm not a DUI." So we all laugh. We all laugh. And he said, I'll need to see your license and your insurance card." So I gave him my license, and the insurance card was in the glove compartment. So I just reached over and, my husband opened it. He was on the passenger side and we took it out, gave it to him. The officer is still standing outside by my car, and he looked at the insurance card. He says, great, your insurance is up to date. And he gave it back to us. He said, then he asked me about my driver's license. He says, is the information on here correct? I said, yes, the address is correct and so forth. He goes back to his car and they do whatever they do. I guess they check your record. They check a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know how all that works because we don't have any kind of encounters with law enforcement, with the police or anything. And so he comes back and he said, you know what? He said, I'm not going to give you a ticket. I'm only going to give you a warning. Keep in mind that this is a 40-mile-per-hour road and not 50. And you just have to be careful for safety. And so he explained to me what it meant and, about the warning. And then I had questions for him. I said, will this affect my insurance? He said, no, this will not affect your insurance in any way. Will this affect my driving record? No. Will this affect me when I'm going to renew my license? No. This is only, he said, this is only a receipt because it looked like a receipt. This is only a receipt for me, for my record, because I stopped you and I have to have a record of that. So this is in no way going on your record. Your insurance company won't know. This will not affect you in any way. And then my husband chimed in. He said, I just want to really thank you for your whole approach, your demeanor, your professionalism, your respect. You addressed us with respect. You were professional. You were cordial. And I just want to thank you for that. And then he said, well, when we make a stop, the driver is the one that sets the tone. And we're like, oh, okay. He says, yeah, the driver sets the tone. And then my husband says, oh, okay, that's good to know because, this is just us, authentic us. And my husband said, I also thank you because if we have a situation, you are the person that we would call. We would call the police. So we appreciate the work that you do and you especially. So I asked him, I said, is there any way I can write a review? I said, I love to write reviews, especially when they're good ones. And I would love to write a review. And he says, well, I'm not asking you to do that, but if you would like to, then he gave me a card with, I guess, the information where I could send it and so forth. And he says, no, I need you to be careful now. And keep in mind, it's a 40-mile-an-hour zone. So he said, give me a second, let me back out and whatever. So he left. The point is this. I could have gotten a ticket. I don't know how much a ticket is for this kind of stop, but I could have gotten a ticket. But that whole interaction, that whole, dialogue between the officer and us saying, we're going to Andy's for ice cream. And he responds, oh, that's a place, this is with an officer. And here I am. I did commit an infraction. And, if he had given us a ticket, if he had given me a ticket, I would have taken responsibility for that. It's not something that I would contest because I knew I was going fast. Now, did I realize I was going 50? No, because my car, again, it's high performance and you put your foot to the pedal and it's gonna go. But, life is such. That's why I have shared that, we take responsibility for ourselves, for our lives, for the things, and we live by the principles of love, kindness, and compassion. That works for us. As you go through your journey of self-discovery, you will discover what works for you. And that is the truth that's going to set you free. Now, you have said that you in this journey of self-discovery that you've reached a place where you're stuck. And you're trying to reconcile your religious teaching with this whole desire to be free, to be happy, to really live life and enjoy the pleasures of life unapologetically without having to justify or, feeling judged or criticized or shame or guilt or any of that. Being able to wear your makeup, to wear your, whatever, just the freedom of being, because depending on what uh, religious denomination you're in, some people are restricted. They have to wear a long dress, a bun in the head, and no jewelry, no makeup, no short dresses, a whole slew of things that, you can't dance, you can't go to a sports bar, you can't drink. And there are just so many things. And so their mind, especially, those that grew up in the church under this kind of doctrine, have issues with that. But as I always say, you have got to determine why you believe what you believe. Because if you don't know why you believe what you believe, then you are a what I call crino. And I got that from the Rhino folks that, I said crino, Christians in name only. You have to know why you believe what you believe. If you call yourself a Christian, a believer, a woman after God's own heart, a God-fearing man, a woman of God, if you call yourself all of that, then you have to know why. You have to know why. Your life has to reflect that. Your life has to reflect that. And when as I was going through my whole, I didn't grow up in the church. I became a born again Christian years ago, and that was, a vulnerable time in my life. And I got born again and so forth, and lived through this doctrine, which was totally different from how I was when I grew up, because we didn't grow up in church at all. We went to Catholic school, and that was just because it was the only private school in my community and so forth. But we didn't, like go to church every Sunday, and that just was not part of my upbringing. My parents were just people of, decent people. And just like my husband and I now, we are decent human beings. We take responsibility for our lives, and we live by the principles of love, kindness, and compassion. And that works for us. But so when I talk about, you knowing why you believe what you believe, and obviously I'm making reference to the Bible, because all of the belief that we have, and I'm talking from a Christian perspective because that is what I know. But when we talk about the religious doctrine, all of it comes from the Bible. And we know, or you will learn as you search your own, do your own research, that the Bible was created by mortal men, ancient scholars, and authors. They wrote, they created, they wrote the book. Of course, we have been told, or we have been sold the information that the Bible is the inspired word of God. And a lot of us bought it, and so we guide our lives based on what's in the Bible. Now, let's say you go by what's in here, what's in the Bible. Now, the Bible says that God is He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Keep that in mind. If you go by the Bible, that's what it says. And again, this is not a Bible study. I'm just using that as a reference because that's what the Bible is for me now. It's just a frame of reference for things that I share and so forth. So, but your Bible says, and that's the Bible that you go by, a woman of God, a man of God, that is your guide for life. And some people say it's their guide for their morality. So, so think about that. I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. And the Bible says, I am your Lord, I am the Lord your God, and I change not. Either you believe that or you don't. So let's put that as, let's preface this whole sharing based on that He's the same, He doesn't change, And he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he's the Lord, and he changes not. He's the same. The Bible also says that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. That means he is present everywhere. And he knows everything. He knows what you're going to do before you do it. He knows what decisions you're going to make. He knows your thoughts. He knows your intent. He knows everything. And he is omnipotent, which means, that he is able to do anything. He's got the power to do anything, any place, anytime, everywhere. So, again, keep that in mind. God is omnipotent, he's omniscient, and he's omnipresent. And he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, and he changes not. Now, if you go by that, you are going to ask yourself, or at least this is what I ask myself, based on the Bible and what's in there. My question was either God doesn't exist, because in all the years that I walked in this doctrine and served and worshiped and praised and so forth and prayed and meditated, fasted, and all of that, there is no proof of the existence of God. No verifiable proof, no demonstrable proof. Things happen in the world, just like whether you believe in God or not. It rains on the just and on the unjust. So there is no verifiable proof of the existence of God. So either he doesn't exist, or if God exists, then based on what we see and based on, even the experiences we have in our own lives, he doesn't care. Number one, either he doesn't exist, or if he exists, he doesn't care. And the third one is, if the Bible gives us that information, either, these ancient writers and scholars and authors, it's a storybook of fables and tales that they came up with. Because the way they depict the God of the Bible is horrible. They depict the God of the Bible as a barbaric, tyrannical, maniacal monster. Wicked. If you think of the morals that we go by today, he kills babies after they're born, and he kills people, and he has favorites, and he endorses slave and rape and all of that. If you are intellectually honest with yourself, you will see that. Read your Bible. So we left church about 15 years ago, and we left. We took a sabbatical. After a while, my husband said, "I'm done. I don't want this life. There's just no growth, no intellectual stimulation. It's just the same regurgitated message week after week, just packaged differently, and I don't want it." So he gave me time, and after a while, I got it. And I'm like, "Yes, we're out." We weren't hurt. We had no pain. We weren't having any bad relationships, no trauma, none of that. We just left. We took a sabbatical and then we went back. That was 15 years ago. My husband didn't have to go through any kind of deconstruction, because he really never, he was one that he went because because of me. He said that's what love does. Because I was involved in religion, and he became, he followed me into that. But he was really never part of that, because he grew up in church, but in an Episcopal church. And that's a whole different doctrine, and they have a lot more freedom to just live and be. So he came into my life as simply a man of character, a man with great attributes, decent, respectful, and all of that. As a matter of fact, he came here from Costa Rica with the bishop. The bishop went there and saw him and whatever, and wanted him to come, like, his right hand and so forth. And so he was in all of that. And I became a born again Christian in my adult life and followed all of that and so forth. And when you talk about church, church is a it's a business. I didn't see it that way before because I was into it. I was really into it. I believed the doctrine that I followed. But indeed, it is a business. It is a business, and when you think of it, one quick thing here. When I say a business, it's created to not only manipulate or control you. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're being controlled, that you're being controlled and manipulated. It's a business. One day I said we had two couples that we were close with. And I said to the girls, I said, let's do something special for the husbands. I said, let's have a husband appreciation day, and let's do something special for them, unbeknownst to them. Let's surprise them. And so I said, let's each of us get a room in the Gaylord Resort, get a room for Saturday night, and so we could go and stay there. We'll invite them to dinner at this restaurant. We'll enjoy dinner. And after that, we will go there for dessert, whatever. So they were in on it. Each one of us packed an overnight bag for our, respective husbands. And, we went out to dinner. We had a great time. Well, actually, they didn't know that they were going to meet up at the restaurant. So we met up at the restaurant. And they're like, oh, and then, they all three of them is like, what are you doing here? And then we said, well, we just wanted to do something special. This is Husband's Appreciation Day. They knew nothing about the hotel the room that we had reserved. So we had dinner and, a couple of, glasses of wine, and we really enjoyed the time together as three couples. And when they brought the dessert list, we said, no, we're going to pass on dessert. Let's go to the Gaylord and, for dessert. So we left there, and each one of us went to the Gaylord, and, of course, the bags is in the back of the car. And we got to the Gaylord, and what happened? Oh, each one of us took out the key to the room and gave it to the husband. They're like, what's this? I'm like, well, we're going to spend the night here. And, each of them are, wait a minute, I don't have my shaving thing and my undergarment, and I'm like, no, we already have it, like I said to my husband, I already have it packed in our overnighter and so forth. So we went to the car, got it in. We got to our rooms, and then, we had such a great night because we had champagne, and we, all three couples, we had a great night. Next day, we got up, we had brunch, and it, took pictures, all of us, and it was just great. It was just a great time. We didn't think anything of it. Now, my husband and I, we are leaders in the church, and one other couple, they were also leaders of, a group. And so the following Wednesday of that week, one of the ladies had a meeting at church, and I was part of that. And when we got there, the pastor pulled her aside and said, we missed you guys on Sunday. And she says, oh no, she says, we celebrated Husband's Appreciation Day. We took the husbands out. She was excited to share it with him. And he said to her, it's better that next time all three of you not miss church at the same time, because it doesn't look good. Imagine that. That is passive aggression. Imagine that. You are out with your husband. And another couple, two more couples. And see, he wouldn't say that to me, because that just, it was a different energy between my husband and I and the pastors, and it was just totally different. So he would not say that to me at all, because as a matter of fact, I one time, when we were taking on this leadership position as King's Ministry and so forth, I said to the pastor's wife, I said, some Sundays you may not see us in church because my husband, some Sundays like to do some fun stuff with me, and so we may miss. So I had already set that up. But yeah, but he said to her, it's best if you don't, all three of you are not missing at the same time because it doesn't look good. It's like, doesn't look good to what? Like to whom? To what? It's like, what is church for? So anyway, that's, when I talk about church is set up to control and to manipulate, that it is true, and it is a business. That's why you see your pastors counting every Sunday. Well, not the pastors, but the elders. They count to see how many people show up, on a Sunday or whenever. And anyway, I'm just throwing that in there. But this whole thing about control and manipulation, it is true. It is true. Um, so anyway, as you start to think about this, when you determine what you believe and why you believe it, you have to know, when you think about God, you have to determine what does that mean to you? Who is this God? How does this how does it all work? And I'm going to share a story, a true story. It's been redacted to keep the privacy of the person that wrote it, because it's his own story. And this is a classic example of Christians in name only. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you? What does that mean? What does it mean? Your doctrine, your religion, everything that you follow. What does it mean? I shared last week on my show that the Bible has claims and promises with no receipts, and that's true. And I made reference to Sonia Masi. She called upon the name of Jesus and she took a bullet in her face, dead, no receipts. In my case, I had, dealings with the police officer this weekend when he stopped me for speeding. And, I didn't call out to God. I didn't pray. I didn't, if I was going to get a ticket, then I would take responsibility for it. That's just the way we live now. But no, he was, he was amicable, he was friendly, and it was just I yesterday, as a matter of fact, I took the time and I wrote, I wrote here, send, and I wrote a review, a review to the law enforcement at Capel Justice Center. And I wrote it. I I always try to show you stuff. I wrote the whole thing. Look, this is all on the police officer. Why? Because it was such a pleasant experience. And again, I didn't call out to God for anything to help. Oh God, let them not give me a ticket. None of that. I was speeding. If he gave me a ticket, I would just pay it. I wouldn't contest it because I was speeding. And we were fortunate enough that we had favor with the officer and he didn't. But anyway, I'm going to name this person Danny. And this, again, this is a real situation. And they just wrote this. Danny said, I have been so sick from sickle cell that I asked the Almighty to take me. He said he's been so sick that he asked God to take him. And he said, please, someone needs to get some help from the government to help pay for sickle cell research. If anyone knows a congressman or a senator, ask them to push for more money to cure this disease. Okay? That's what he wrote. He posts this on social media. I know this person. Doesn't name Danny, but I know him. And so he said, we need to, if you know any congressman or a senator, ask them to push for more money to cure this disease. And so with that, people start chiming in, oh, we'll be praying for you. And then someone would say, praying for you, prayers going up, sending prayers. Everybody's thoughts and prayers. Everybody's sending prayers. And he said, he just got, a little myth from all of that. He said, Sandra, I am not asking for prayer. Y'all don't pray for me. I know the Almighty personally. We are on a daily speaking terms. Okay? He says, please, I'm just trying to say that no one cares about an illness that affects minorities. It makes no money for the drug companies to cure sickle cell, but the treatments make billions a month, billions of dollars a month. People all over the world have sickle cell, but everyone laughs because they don't understand how much it hurts. I have been blessed to be able to hurt for a certain level of pain, from 1 to 10. But after it goes like 12 and 13, I need help. But no help is given by the powers that be. I know I was pausing when I read it, so let me just read it straight again. Just listen to this. First of all, he's crying out. He says, I have been so sick from sickle cell that I have asked the Almighty to take me. Imagine you being in so much pain that you ask God to take you, to just take you. And God wouldn't even do that. He said, please, someone needs to get some help from the government to help pay for sickle cell research. If anyone knows a congressman or a senator, ask them to push for more money to cure this disease. And again, there's just a slew of, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm praying for you, sending prayers going up, thoughts and prayers, and all of that. And he just got sick of all of that. And he said, Sandra, he was referring to someone else. Sandra, I am not asking for prayer. He made it clear. I am not asking for prayer. Y'all don't pray for me. Don't pray for me. I'm not asking for prayer. He says, I know the Almighty personally. We are on daily speaking terms. Me and the Almighty is on daily speaking terms. Please, I'm just trying to say that no one cares about an illness that affects minorities. It makes no money for the drug companies to cure sickle cell, but the treatments make billions of dollars a month. People all over the world have sickle cell, but everyone laughs because they don't understand how much it hurts. I have been blessed to be able to hurt for a certain level of pain, like from 1 to 10. But after it reaches like 12 and 13, I need help. But no help is given by the powers that be. Now, you already know what I'm thinking. He says he asked God to take his life, and he's asking for anyone. If you know of any government, congressman or senator, please ask them to push for more money to cure this disease. Remember, I started out by saying that if you're a Christian, a believer, a man of God, a God-fearing man, a man after God's own heart, let's say you are a believer, that the book that you're guided by is the Bible. So when you say to check with a congressman or senator for them to push for more money to cure this disease, but you say, and then of course down here you said, hey, hold it. I'm not asking for prayer. I don't need prayer. I know the Almighty personally. We are on a daily speaking terms. Now, the Almighty is the God of that changes not. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Why are you going, Danny? Why are you going to the government when you can just ask God to help you? Not even to help you, to cure you. He says, I am the God that heals thee, that healeth thee. If you want to go Elizabethan English. I am the God that heals thee. So why, if you know the Almighty personally, you say, we're on a daily speaking terms. Think of it. We're on a daily speaking terms. It's like, we are buddies. So why are you asking for the government to intervene when you can? And then you say on the bottom here, you said, I have been blessed to be able to hurt for a certain level of pain, from 1 to 10, but after it goes like, 12, 13, I need help. But no help is given by the powers that be. Who are the powers that be? Is that the government? Is that the senators? Is that the congressmen and senators? The powers that be is the Almighty God with whom you are in touch with daily, on a daily basis. That's the powers that be. You are a Christian, my friend. You are a believer. You are a man after God's own heart. You are a man of God. You are a God-fearing man. So, where is all that goes? Do you see why you cannot even come into your identity? Because you are not even, you say here, you're in so much pain that you ask God to take your life. And then you're asking external sources to check with their congressmen, their senators, to push for more money to cure this disease so that there'll be more money for research. And then you say, no, I don't need prayer. Don't. I pray for you. I don't need prayer. I know the Almighty personally. Do you think, look, if I know you personally, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call you. I'm going to go to your house. Look, I need to chat. This is going on. And you start dialoguing with the person that you know personally. You say, I know the Almighty personally. We are on a daily speaking terms. What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about with the Almighty with whom you are on a daily speaking terms? What are you talking about? You are in so much pain? Or do you know him? Does he exist? Or does he exist and you don't care, but you're still going to praise and worship him? What is it? What is it? And as I read, when I read this, I made reference to Job. You know the story of Job. Job, uh, and what I want to reference here is that despite what Job went through, Job continued to worship and to praise God and so forth. Job is the wealthiest man in this town. He's the wealthiest man, sheep and oxen and whatever. Job has 7 sons and 3 daughters. God is according to the Bible, God is in heaven, chilling with the angels and so forth. And this is the way the story goes. He's just having a time with the angels. And Satan, the devil, Lucifer, walks by. And he said, yo, this is God. What's up? Like, what are you doing? And Satan says to him, to God, the God of the Bible, the God that you serve, that you worship, the God that you believe in. God said to Satan, evidently they had some kind of a relationship. He said, what are you doing? And Satan says, well, I was just roaming the earth. And he said, oh, really? He said, what about my son, Job? I don't know if he said my son, but what about Job? And he said, oh, I can't touch him because you have built a hedge of protection around him and you wouldn't let me hurt him. In other words, he was saying, because Job was known for his continued worship and praise to God. And he said, oh, no, I can't touch him because you have built a hedge of protection around him. And so I can't touch him. And but if you remove it, you'll see how he'll curse you. Then God said, no, go ahead, test him, try him. and you'll see that he remains faithful to me. So God removes this hedge of protection. He said, you can do whatever you want, and you'll see that he continues to praise me. And, Danny must be a form of Job, because he's going outside for other stuff instead of asking God. So Job every day would just, render praise and worship to God and so forth. And he was always afraid that his 10 children would do something that would offend God or hurt God or whatever, and he wanted to be in good graces with God and protection with his family and so forth. So the oldest son had this big feast in his house, and sent for his three sisters, and they were all there having feasts. And back in those days, they really knew how to party. Well, they partied different, and they were just having a bacchanal. They were just having a feast, and all of his children, and who knows who else. And with that, one servant after the other came in and told him, you were, your goods, your sheeps, were attacked and killed them and whatever. The point is that all of their wealth was just destroyed and killed and so forth. And then eventually, there came a storm that flattened the house of the eldest son, where the all of the 10 children were having a feast, celebrating, and it flattened the house and killed all 10 of the children. And when Job found out, just imagine, just humanize this for just a second. You have 10 children, and, God makes a bet. He bets with Satan. Read it. It's in Job. He makes a bet with Satan. I bet you he will continue to serve me. And Satan says, oh, he serves you because you have a hedge of protection around him. And he said, okay, I remove it. You do whatever you want with him, and you'll see that he continues to serve me. So, if you're going through a lot of trials, you've got to know this God, and you've got to reconcile. You have to find out whether he does exist, or he exists and he doesn't care, or this Bible is a book of fables and tales and so forth. You've got to know for yourself. I came up with my own conclusion, and for me at this point, it's irrelevant whether there's a God or not. It's inconsequential in my mind. And if there is a God, I can tell you right now, he will like me. He likes me, he favors me, and so forth. And if there isn't, then I am living the life that I want based on the assessment that I have determined that works for me. The principle of love, kindness, and compassion, and just being a decent human being, rendering goodwill to my neighbor and so forth. So anyway, he rips his Job. He learns that the house was flattened and killed his 10 kids. Imagine that. If you lose one child, you lose your mind, because we are not set up that way. Imagine losing all of your children. You have 10. And a storm comes and kills all of your children, and you survive it. And his wife was still there. And he continues to worship God and praise God. And his wife, she is mad as hell at this point. She said, you curse God and die. He's like, who is this God? The wicked God took away my 10 children. Imagine a mother's heart. Imagine you as a mother. She said, curse God and die. And he said, don't be foolish. So Satan goes back to God and said, no, God said, I guess they found themselves in that setting again. And God says to Satan, see, he continues to praise and worship me despite you taking away all the things that he has. And Satan says, a man only knows pain. You afflict him with pain, and you will see that he will curse you. Imagine that. I am telling you, this is, I've read the Bible before many times, cover to cover, but I've always read it with an unbiased, with a biased mindset. I just read it based on the way it was taught in church, because when you read the book of Job, they talk, mostly what they preach is how he was restored twice the wealth, how God, the goodness of God to restore twice the wealth. But let me tell you, when you are going through the pain of losing a child, one child, you could have 10. You can say, well, of course I lost one, then I have 9, I'm good. No, when you lose one child, you lose your mind. Imagine that. And you are mortal, you are human. You lose your mind to lose one child. It's devastating. It's just devastating. It's devastating. So he says to Satan, he again, God in the setting, garden, whatever, with the angels, and Satan shows up, and God said, see, he still worships me, and so forth. And Satan says, but if you afflict his body with pain, he will curse you. Then God said, go ahead, afflict him with pain, afflict his body with pain. My friend, read the story. And his body, he had all these boils. These boils came up on his body. Boils all over. Boils. Boy, he couldn't touch it because it hurt so much. Consider sickle cell or whatever you may be going through, back pain or knee pain or headaches, or living on oxygen, or living on dialysis. With dialysis, just think of all these things that all these sickness that afflicts humanity, cancer and colon cancer, and seeing people die and suffer and so forth. And even when Job had 3 friends that went to visit him, and when they saw him, they turned around. He looked so gross that they could not even keep their eyes on him because he was so sick. He looked so gross. And his wife again said, curse God and die. And he said, no, I will continue to praise and worship you. Would you do that to your child to prove a point? Or are you okay with whatever affliction you may be going through? Because if it's a test, I don't use that word. I never think I'm going through a test. Because when you say a test, that means someone else is pulling the strings. When you say a test, that means someone else is pulling the strings. And in my mind, I like to think of myself, with an autonomous thought, sovereign, taking responsibility. Things happen and you deal with it, you figure things out, and you just navigate through life with your principles in mind that you're guided by. Excuse me. With the principles that you're guided by, and just being a decent person. And you do what you need to do to take care of your health, to take care of your your health, and your mind, all of that. You do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And if you smoke a lot, then just know that you can come down with lung cancer, and that's on you. But at least take responsibility for that. I don't smoke, so I don't worry about stuff like that. Of course, I guess it can happen even if you smoke or not smoke. But the point is, you do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. Would you do that to your children? If you have, let's say, for instance, this guy that went to MIT and became an engineer and then left his whole career to become a musician, how would you afflict him? Would you afflict him with some kind of disease to teach him a lesson, to put him through a test so that he can learn that, no, this doesn't work for me, you better go back to engineering? Would you do that to your child? If your child is disobedient or rebellious, what kind of test would you put your child through? What kind of test would you put your child through? Would you afflict him with pain and boils to his body and just would you afflict him with pain where he can't stand it, but at the same time he's like, oh, Mom, I love you, Mom, I still love you, I love you. What kind of that's madness. That is madness. I subscribed to that doctrine for many years. Now I see it differently because now it's not about, God restored to Job twice as much. When you have lost 10 children, I don't care if you give him 50 more children's back. That's not the point. The void that you go through, the absence, where are your children? Where are my kids? Where are my kids? They were flattened. You just imagine the agony, the pain that they may have gone through, a slow death with the whole structure coming down on them. And, some may have died instantly and some may have died, slowly. And you just imagine that and it hurts so much. Can you identify with that? And, Daryl is saying here, he said, I have been blessed. He said, I have been blessed to be able to hurt for a certain level of pain, 1 to 10. But when it goes to 12, 13, I need help. You call that a blessing? You've got to, in order for you to reach a point of self-discovery, you have to, you have to implement critical thinking skills, my friend. Critical thinking skills, and you also have to, use logical reasoning. Remember, the Bible is written by mortal men. They either have had a good story that you could turn into a movie, but if this is how you should live and have your life be guided by, that's food for thought. That is food for thought. I don't want any part of it. Again, the Bible for me now is used. The only reason I am reading this now is because you're saying that you're conflicted. Now you're a place of conflict. You can't reconcile because when you try to be happy to live and a life of fun, of pleasure and peace and joy and all that it conflicts because this Bible doctrine teaches that you should be solemn, be subdued, and you're always thinking if you're gonna offend God, and can I do this, can I do that, can I, and you are living a life of mental chaos, from mental gymnastics because you have to think of all these things to chaos. And that is not the way life, there is no pleasure in that. Again, the opposite of pleasure is suffering. And most people are suffering because you submit yourself to this. And if that works for you, my friend, hey, then you stay with it. Thoughts and prayers to you. If it works for you. But don't be asking the governors and the senators to put more money for, to set aside more money for sickle cell research. When there's a God, when there is God that can, in a snap of a finger, heal your pain, your sickness, and your disease. I'm going to leave you with that, my friend, so that you can ponder on that and know that when you call yourself a believer, a man after God's own heart, a Christian, a God-fearing man that and when you say that you are I know the Almighty personally, and that we are on daily speaking terms. When you say that, you need to qualify. What do you mean by that? On daily speaking terms, what are you talking about? You go to him afflicted like that, and you don't ask him to give you a hookup to help you, to heal you? That's what I mean. You need to know who you are. You need to discover your true identity, and not an identity that's been imposed by religious doctrine. And you don't even know what to think, because that doesn't even make a lick of sense. When you say, I know the Almighty personally, we are on daily speaking terms, that doesn't make it. And then when you say, I've been blessed to be able to handle this pain, none of that makes sense. Think of it. None of it makes sense. As I read this, I'm kind of enjoying this, because it's like I'm relearning this again. I have not, I had like 100 Bibles. I got rid of them, got rid of all of them. But now, of course, I've got the electronic Bible, which I can reference, and that's kind of what I use. But none that I go back and read, because this, the Bible is not something that's part of my life. As a book of reference, it is, but other than that, it's not. Anyway, look, if you need to drop me a line, you can do so at info@thecynthialennoxshow.com, and I'll read it. We'll chat, whatever. I'm also a certified life coach, and if you need to chat with me, there's a 30-minute complimentary chat that I offer, so that you can determine if I am the person that can help you through your journey. Other than that, every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have a date right here. And if you miss that 2 p.m., you can tune in on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube 24/7. In the meantime, I'm going to say ta-ta, enjoy a great weekend after Friday, and we'll see each other next week. Again, see each other next week. And I will say ciao, ta-ta, hasta luego, au revoir.